Hey everybody, we are back. ZEN Bounty Wars live stream. That's us. Hey, how about that? It's 10:01. Hey, that's not bad. I'm on time. It's pretty good. Welcome back to the live stream, everybody. It's going pretty good over here. We are working on ZEN Bounty Wars #1, and that's what we do. We're going to spend about 30 minutes here working on the actual book that we'll be launching in March. On a Kickstarter, March 21st, I believe. And let's welcome our co-host, Steve Stern. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Bill. How's everybody out there? Nice to see you all.
Yeah, everybody's doing good. Let me see who's in the room with us tonight. I'm over here pressing all the buttons. Kevin, how you doing, man? It's good to see you, dude. It's like I'm kind of like I did like three or four different live streams yesterday. I was so exhausted by the end of the day. You have no idea. But Kevin's right. This is a moment of weekly Zen. So we're meditating. Let's see. Kevin says it's 10:01. What is it like in the future? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Kevin, that's right. You're in San Diego. You're in California, bro. That's what's going on. No. I'm gonna try not to be asleep. I had some food. I got some drink. I think I'm good to go. But I am gonna turn off my camera just a second because I got to switch my camera to look down. I got a different camera set up because we're gonna be doing something different tonight. Yeah. Are we not, Steve?
No. I just do my same thing, which is sit here and watch the magic unfold, courtesy of Bill.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some actual coloring tonight. So I've got to use a different webcam. Make sure this thing is all hooked up right.
Great. Yeah. Looking forward to watching this happen.
And I'm sure that well, you got the script for page 1 handy?
Bet you I do. Let me
cool. Yeah, you just while we color a little bit of the page, you can read off some of how the script was actually phrased, so that way people see what we're doing.
Yes, I've got
this stuff. Yeah, so this is us. This is us for the next. Kevin's like gasp color.
So, Bill, the way you colorize. We can go panel by panel. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, well, it kind of bounces back and forth because it all depends on what the image is on the page, the way that we're going to color. So the first thing I'm going to do is really kind of like get into the background, like the way I color kind of like in layers. Like, if you have panes of glass on top of each other, I'm putting a color way back in the background. And then I'm putting another color on top of it, another color on top, another color on top. Wow. Now, everybody colors a little bit differently. So this is by no means a tutorial on the only way to color. But this is how I color, and this is how it works out best for me. If you ask Kat, she colors a whole different way. See, I'm on my iPad. I actually use Photoshop for just about everything, but last few years, the heavy lifting of actually coloring or actually, adding some inks or anything like that, I've been doing all of that on the iPad. It's an app called Procreate, and it's just very intuitive. It's just, I love the way that it works. And then I'll export everything out of here back into Photoshop, because Photoshop is where I size my pages, I color correct everything. I still save all of my pages with Photoshop, so that way I know where they all are. So I absolutely need Photoshop. It is the only way to color. Now, don't tell that to Kat. Don't let Kat hear you. If Kat hears you, compared to Kat, my method is like she's got like full on oil paints, and I'm over here with like the Crayola method of coloring. So everybody has to. Well, let me let you see what I'm doing here. So you got the whole page here. I've imported it already from my Dropbox. We won't be going over how I scanned everything in a little thing. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that. We could play that for people that are looking for like a little step by step. How comic books are created. We're just going to get into the actual coloring. So sometimes you could separate the line art, and sometimes you can just put them on a multiply layer. So that way, what happens? I'll show you what happens. Let me pick a color. Let me just pick any old color, and I put the line art page on a multiply layer above the color page. So that way, when I throw some color on here, it doesn't affect the line art. It doesn't affect the black. So that's what we're looking for right now. But the first thing I got to do, I got to tidy up a little bit before I even start, because the original art had, I write the issue number and stuff like that on the top. So I want to kind of get rid of that. before I get started. And and if there's any other little, I've already taken a look at the page. The page was already like pretty good. I didn't really need to clean this page up, but little things like that, they always need to be cleaned up. You're not going to see that like in the final product.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into some colors and see what we got going on. So we're flying into a alien planet atmosphere. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'll just read the description I wrote.
Yeah.
It says simply, large introductory panel. Zen is flying down through multicolored clouds to the surface of a planet in the teapot. So that's it. So what did you just do there, Bill?
I took my big airbrush, like you were asking before. It's like, am I going to color like one panel at a time? Do a panel, do a panel, do a panel. Because the atmosphere is actually in the background of all of these panels.
Yeah.
I just went ahead. Yeah, I'll erase what I did right there. As you see, I'm double tapping. That little double tap kind of undoes what I just did. So I'm selecting an airbrush, and this is how big the airbrush is. I'm kind of sizing it, making it bigger and smaller, whatever I need. Then I'll put it down on the canvas over here, and it's like, okay, that's how big my airbrush is. Right. And I constantly am zooming in and zooming out of the page. So that's just a habit, because you're just bouncing your eyes around trying to see what the next thing you're going to work on is. So I'll make the airbrush a little bit bigger. That seems big enough, I think. I'll make this a little tiny bit bigger. So that's pretty big. So I want to cover the whole page just with something to get started. I know I've got like some kind of sunset kind of colors going on back here, but then we're going to have all of these multicolored clouds that he's just flown through. Like maybe we'll make it a little rave, little bright colors or something like that. So, but this gives us something to start with, something to kind of like, all right, well, I started out with this so far. I always like those the sunset kind of colors that go from like orange to brown, kind of like Indiana Jones posters, And I'm just gonna throw in some airbrush across the top here, so that way it kind of goes from like the brown to the orange a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking maybe somewhere between these mountains, I'm going to put like a little bright spot, like maybe the sun is kind of like just on a horizon kind of situation,
Cool.
So I'll pick some yellow here. Let me make the airbrush a little bit smaller now. But I picked the yellow, but I still had it on dark mode over here. All right, picked a better color. Maybe I can have some happy light.
It's fascinating, Bill.
And kind of undo, redo. You just bounce back and forth until it looks right, And I'll keep on lightening up this yellow until I kind of get what I want. Now I've got another tool. I've got another brush over here called a luminance brush that I like to use a lot. And that brush kind of looks like this. Like it looks like it's glowing a little bit. So I will, you know what? I don't know if that color is going to work. I don't think this is going to work good for me. I don't think this is what I want. I think what I want, is it a flare? Is a flare what I want? Let's figure it out. Maybe a flare. I'm going to put this flare on a different layer, just in case I screw it up. This is the beauty of layers. Okay, so I'm going to go up here. I'm adding another layer. These are my panes of glass. Okay, I'm just stacking and stacking. So this sunset color is in the background. And then, down here at the other panels, I'll come back down to this layer and kind of like mess around with the colors here. Just kind of like give it a little bit of a base. But I'm not really sure what I want to do or how I want to handle that lens flare over there. Because if I turn the page this way, then the lens flare is like this, kind of turns. That's actually not bad.
That's cool.
Not bad. But I don't want it there. I want it to be closer to the mountains. So I'm gonna stick it down here somewhere. Maybe I'll rotate it a little bit. There we go. And then I'm not even worried about what's happening down to these panels over here. It's just all. But I do want to have like these clouds and stuff over here. So
Yeah. So, Bill, I have a question.
sure, sure.
When you look at the credits on most comic books, the graphic novels that are produced today, the colorist is typically someone other than the artist. Okay,
That's true. That's very true.
so the fact that you do all of these things, is that pretty unusual, that you pencil, ink, color, and you also letter? I mean, do most people, are they like Renaissance men like you and do everything or not?
Well, I don't want to say, I wouldn't want to phrase it like that. It's like in the world that we're living in right now, being kind of somebody who wears all the hats, sometimes it becomes necessary because maybe your project, for one reason or another, can't have a team of people. You know what I mean? So the more that you can do, the better. And then there's lots of projects, and Steve knows this very well. There's lots of projects where I'm only the colorist or I'm only the letterist, the letterist, the letterer. I don't know how to talk, but I know how to color and draw comic books. So it's good to be able to wear all the different hats if you can. That way, when you're in a situation where you need to do it all yourself, like you know how to do it. It could be a budget. It could be a budget concern. It could be just that the time or the deadline. I know Kat's going to be giving me color assists on the Zen book, and she's going to be doing a lot of coloring. Now, when she colors a page, I might go into the page and actually just add some flourishes, add some special effects. And she's always asking me as she's coloring the page what I had in mind for that particular page. She looks at the script, so there's always a back and forth. There's always a collaborative, air to the whole thing. But I think right now I want to put some clouds in the background. So let me grab a different brush.
Wow, it's a lot of brushes, aren't there?
There's so many brushes. Good Lord. Let's see. Let me pick this cloud brush and see. It's a little too small. And these are clouds that are going to get mostly covered up, but I need them behind everything, Little shadows, so that way the brighter clouds in front of them will stand out. I'm just picking some browns and then some really dark browns.
Bill, you've been coloring. I mean, we recently, not terribly long ago, did the L'Amour Supreme Zen Kickstarter, and you colorized all of those books, and they're gorgeous. So when you colorized those, which was in like the mid 90s, would it be correct to say that the tools you had for coloring were extremely different?
Yeah, they were archaic compared to what we have today. They were, and some of them were horrible. We were using we weren't even even Photoshop was a lot simpler, and there was less tricks to play with and less latitude, less range, as far as like being able to do things. But we weren't even using Photoshop when we first started back in the day. We were using another program called Picture Publisher, and Picture Publisher doesn't even have layers. I mean, it was just really, really limited. It was like there was very little that we can, there were some gradients, and then we had to be very careful about how we drew a mask around the thing, and everything was on one layer. So if you screwed it up, you had to do a lot to be able to fix it. Right now, if I screwed up these clouds right here, it's fine. It's like these clouds are just on one layer. I turn them on, I turn them off.
Right.
If I change my mind about this little highlight, coming up over the mountains, I can just turn that layer off and it's gone. Right. I could do something else. But yeah, Picture Publisher was very, very, very unforgiving.
And the name of the program you're using again?
Oh, the one that I'm using right now is called Procreate, and it's on my iPad.
Gotcha.
Here we go. Let me get up here. Pick a color that'll stand out against the. There we go. Now I'm coloring this upside down because the clouds are facing up, so it just made it. I'm just making it easier for myself to make sure these clouds are facing the direction that I want them to face.
Wow.
And I think I really like these like browns and stuff, like coming down on a dune planet.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the kind of things that happen during the process, especially since ours is more collaborative, and you actually give me, some latitude to play with. It's I'll probably put some multicolored clouds in here to kind of match the script. But I think that the way you wrote the scene, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because we're here, we're live. The way that you wrote the script, it's like, flying down through, as long as he's flying down through the clouds to an alien planet, that's really that's the most important part of that. Not whether or not the clouds are candy, the color of cotton candy or different purples and this and that. Even though I'm planning on putting that in there, but it's when you're, you're drawing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just a creative thing. When I sit down and I write a description of a scene, it's whatever visuals come to my mind, and I, come up with multicolored clouds. Is it an absolute necessity that they be that way? No, of course not, really.
I think we're still gonna have them, but it's a process. Like while I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, I don't know. I like kind of like this desert kind of planet, but I know that they're flying down to a place where there's trees, huge branches, so it's more of a foresty kind of world. Right. And so obviously, like, we're way high up because all you see are these little weird mountain peaks and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to do those other clouds like on yet another layer, so that way, if it doesn't look right, sometimes you make decisions based on the limitations of the artist, doing the coloring.
Right.
So it could be a situation where it's like, I put in some purple clouds, but it just doesn't look quite right. But I know what I can pull off to make look cool.
Mm-hmm.
With my own abilities. So it's like, all right, well, maybe the purple's not working, so I'll try a different color, or I'll try something, And as long as I achieve, what the scene needs, then I think we're good. And it's funny working this long on just the clouds, because I could have just thrown a gradient in there and called it a day. It's like just.
Now, here's another question I have.
Uh-huh.
The implement you're using, is that called a stylus?
Yeah, this is a stylist. Uh-huh.
All right. So here's a question. Back in the day, before things got really ramped up, did you have to just use like a mouse or something as opposed to?
Yeah, I did. For the longest time, I used a mouse. I used to use. Architects use a different kind of mouse that. I'll hold my mouse here so you can see it. So underneath the mouse, you've got the actual tracking thing is right in the middle. So it's kind of like in the palm of your hand back here. But architects have a mouse that have their mouse extends up to here with a little circle, so that you're actually like the pinpoint directly above the mouse is where the pinpoint is, instead of in the middle of your hand. So that I upgraded to that, and that made things a lot easier for me.
Kevin wants happy little trees.
And here's a neat little trick. I'm going back to my airbrush. What I did was I'm going to lock this layer, so that way nothing outside what I've just painted is going to get affected. I could be down here scrubbing all day. Nothing's going to happen up here. But if I scrub up here where the paint already is, it's going to affect what I painted already. So I just wanted to put some little highlights, a little something on these clouds
Mm-hmm.
instead of drawing more clouds. That
Yes.
way I can kind of change the color a little bit. That'd be kind of cool. And some of these things just might they might get changed around regardless, but you know, it's part of the process, you know, just one little piece at a time. But now that I've gotten to the point that I'm actually coloring something that's inside of an actual piece of artwork, actual drawing, now this is where we get to the nitty-gritty, and we have like a couple different ways of doing things.
Uh-huh.
So I'll try the first easiest way to do it, which is a little bit more time consuming if it's a large, complicated shape. I'll actually just take the paintbrush
Yeah.
and I'll paint a color inside the shape, just physically paint the color inside the shape. The other way to do it is to draw a mask. You know, keep your mask inside the lines, of course, and you draw a mask around the shape, and then you fill it. You fill it with a solid color. So what you want to do is, it's turned. We're doing the flats. So anytime Kat tells you that she's flatting a page,
Yeah, what does that mean exactly?
she's putting flat colors inside of all the individual shapes. Okay. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm putting a flat color inside of the teapot, so that way I could fill it with the actual color that does go there. But I'll lock the layer so that none of the color bleeds out outside of it.
Gotcha.
And then I'm going to do the same thing with the smoke and the clouds that are streaming off of it. I'm going to basically do a flat layer. So I'm going to lock that layer so nothing happens to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to add a new layer on top of it. And I'm just putting in arbitrary colors. As long as I could tell the difference between the two colors, we're good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put a dark color there, just so I could see the difference. And for this one, I'll draw it in, but for another shape, I'll draw a mask, so that way you could see like the difference of how those two techniques are actually going. Make the pen tip just a little bit smaller. Going around all these little details.
Uh-huh.
And it's cool, like doing the flats first. It's like when I first started coloring, I didn't know that flats were something that you did first. Like that was something you were supposed to do. And it saves so much time. It's like, you know,
Really?
if you don't know, you don't know. You know, it's like it's, you know, until somebody shows you or teaches you or reveals the secret, then you're not going to know these things. They're just little work habits. I mean, they're little time savers.
This is intriguing. I've never really quite seen this process done. I did on various occasions, you know, watch Dan do coloring,
Uh-huh.
but a very long time ago, and I know his implements were very different than what you're using.
Yeah, I think Dan uses Illustrator for a lot of his coloring.
I'm
And
not sure.
Illustrator is a program that I never use. I've been wanting to learn how to use it,
Mhm.
but then when Procreate came out, and Procreate, there's always, you know, everybody leans towards, you know, whatever is more intuitive to them, to how they work. And I tend to color like a little kid, so Procreate. Not calling anybody else a little kid if they happen to be using Procreate, because they, you know, you could turn out photorealistic artwork on Procreate. It's crazy the range that this program has.
Wow.
But you know, for me, it's like it's just very intuitive. It just works the way that I was hoping a painting program would work.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest takeaway is the fact that it's on my iPad. So I'm actually doing like real full-size files on my iPad. I never thought that the iPad was going to be able to handle something like that.
Wow.
So this is as portable as you can get. So I got around all of the black line art. So I got this empty space in the middle. So I'm just going to drag my color here and fill it. And now I've got two flats. I've got these two flats that I can work with. I'll lock the layer, so I've got it.
Wow.
And
You know,
whatever.
instantly it's so much beyond the black and white art. It's the color just is a quantum leap above.
Oh, dude, it's so cool, and with the way the stylus is, this Apple stylus, holy crap, this Apple pencil, like I'm drawing in some highlights. I'm basically like I'm wondering how it is I'm going to tackle this. I need to see what it looks like. I got this general idea of the effect that I want to achieve. Like this is as real time as it gets. It's like this no pre-thought before I started getting into before we started the stream. So now I've got this other tool. Let me see. Let me drag this down a little bit so you can see it a little bit. So I've got a couple of tools up here. One is actually my paintbrush. One is this little smearing blending tool. One is an eraser. So I'm getting this blending tool out is what I'm using right now. So the color that I put down, now everything's, as far as what's on this flat layer, I put this light purple on top and I'm blending it in. I love being able to do that because I'm not much of a painter. Even when I paint with a real brush, like I'm not much of an actual painter. I draw with color. I'm good at drawing, not good at painting. But once I draw it in and then I actually have the freedom to blend it, it's like, oh, dude, it just opens up all kinds of. And check out how that looks. Just a little bit of highlights, And it's a lot more control. It'll give you what you're looking for a lot faster. Let me get some lighter ones to get my brush back over here again. Yeah, I like doing my highlights and things like that using this kind of method.
Yeah.
And notice that it's like that's why I locked the layer. So no matter how I'm blending, nothing's going outside of the boundaries of that flat color that I put down. So the flat color that I put down is acting as a mask.
Gotcha. That's called flatting, right? That process.
Yeah, the process of putting in those colors first. That's all about flatting. And then what I'll do is I'll probably overlap some clouds on top of this line art, so it looks like it's really going in between these things,
Oh.
And this is the other thing too. I was working with a Wacom for the longest time. I had a Wacom tablet and using Photoshop, but I always had a problem with that only because the equipment that I had, you really needed to really boost up the computer that you get, really buy all the memory that you can get for it and get the fastest CPU and all that good stuff. And the iPad is just like butter. I'm just like zooming in and out constantly, and it's keeping up with me just fine.
It's awesome.
So that's enough to leave. I can leave that there for now, and then we'll let's see what we can do with the teapot.
This will be interesting.
Yeah, I like the teapot. It's like I like doing the clouds and the smoke because of the different colors that we were talking about. That was like, okay, we're going into some uncharted territory. I'm not really sure I want to handle that. The teapot, I've got a decently solid idea of how I would like to see the teapot. So we're gonna jump in here and do that. It's all scribbly, but I know ahead of time that I'm going to be using that blend tool. So I'm just putting some paint down where I need it. And blending it together a little bit. I like to leave it a bit lighter in the middle, so that way it kind of looks like it's glowing from the inside,
Wow.
See how the orange is blending into the yellow?
Yeah.
It looks like an egg. The teapot is now a boiled egg.
Yeah.
But let me give it some. I want to give it just a little bit of dark brown, just before I give it like the highlights and stuff, and then that'll set it off. All right. I kind of want some highlights on the outside of it, so I'm gonna. Like when you first start painting, like you could really be pretty sloppy and just throw the paint everywhere, you know. And then as you slowly start tightening it up around the edges, as you get to closer, then you have to be a little bit more precise. So little by little, you have to be a little bit more precise, you know, with everything that you're doing. So I got these little white highlights. I want to have some like just some bright burn spots, and just blend those just a tiny bit. And we've got the teapot.
Looks amazing.
Cool. I still want to do something with the little purple smoke in the front. So let's go back to that layer. And I'm going to sample. There's another thing I like about the Procreate app. I can go over here and I could pick one of these colors here. I'll just hold my finger down on it, and it'll sample the color for me right off the bat. So now I can come back over here and use that color. And now I know that it's the same color that I used back there. So I'm not picking something that's too different from what's already been used, you know. I'll blend that a little bit.
And Bill, you're 100% self-taught, not only in the art, but the coloring as well, right?
Well, you know, I did go to community college after high school, and I got a what was my degree? Oh my God. The last time I even said what was my degree, my goodness, it wasn't, it was a, you know what? I'll think about it in just a minute. I went to community college. I took a lot of broadcasting classes, and I took photography, and I took, see, I need Kat to walk up behind me. You know, but here's the thing. My brain is like constantly, my brain was 100% thinking about how to talk about what I was doing. So for me to change gears right in the middle of that. So I got an associate's degree. It took me 4 years to get my 2-year associate.
Really? Okay.
And it was in commercial media advertising arts. It wasn't necessarily in fine art or, and they didn't teach like comic book art or cartooning or anything like that. So I was kind of lucky. Some of my fine art classes, because I was airbrushing and doing things that they thought were interesting.
Yeah.
During I was able to do a lot of projects with my airbrush. Instead of oil painting, which kind of was a disservice because they didn't teach me how to oil paint. They just wanted to see me airbrush, but I passed the class.
You're talking about a physical airbrush, right?
Yeah.
They colorized the first issue of ZEN.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I used to color the Jay Lee artwork. I used a physical airbrush. That was before I had a computer that could really handle anything like that, you know?
Right. You mean that the Jay Lee cover you used?
Yeah, I used a physical airbrush, and I actually colored a photostat. I airbrushed a photostat of his line art in order to get that cover. Yeah, that was physical airbrush right there. Yep.
I'll pull this out here. So this
there were quite a few covers that I had to pull off using airbrush and maybe just a little bit of acrylic paint, some inks. You know,
Bill, are you able to see what I'm holding up, or are you?
Oh yeah, no, I can see it perfect. Yeah.
So
that's good. That's a bucket list item for me to actually color Jay Lee's artwork.
You did it.
That's dope. Oh yeah.
Yeah, your signature is right on there too.
Mm-hmm. Now on the we had a version of that book that was not chromium.
Yeah.
And for that one, we actually computer colored that issue.
Okay.
But for the chromium issue, yeah, I broke out the airbrush, went all fancy.
Very cool.
Hey, Pops, how you doing, man? I'm glad you're hanging out with us, dude.
You're watching some amazing work happening here. By the way, Bill, we're almost 40 minutes into this. So when
Look at that. That's actually perfect. That was a perfect timing. We try to keep our episodes to about a half hour. And you know what?
Right.
Once that's the thing. Time flies. Nobody really realizes how much time goes into, actually producing a comic book. They don't know. It's so I'm glad that people appreciate it, and I'm glad people buy it, because without their support, this isn't something that we could do unless we had the support behind it.
Right. So next Sunday we're going to continue. You're going to continue colorizing until the whole page is done.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So next week I'm going to set this aside. I'm not going to do any work on it. I'm going to make sure that you see every step, and you see like my mistakes. You see where I changed my mind, and we'll just keep on going from there. And then once we have the whole page finished, I'll post up a nice res image of it on my Facebook, and I'll have it up on the screen so that you can see it. It'll be the unlettered version of the page, but it's just for the sake of seeing the artwork and seeing the process. So yeah, I do appreciate everybody being here.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks so much. We'll see you guys.